Good afternoon and welcome, my friends, to the SitRep for today, which is the 30th of April, 2023. Welcome and thanks for joining me. As always, I appreciate it. Yes, there's a few of you who've been commenting and liking my stuff lately, and I just want to give you a big shout out and say thanks heaps for commenting on the posts. I really appreciate it. Everyone who comments. I don't care if your comment is good or bad. Some comments come in and infuriate me, and I hate them, but I still appreciate the fact that you comment because I like free speech. So thank you for that. Also, thank you to everyone who's been hitting the like, subscribe button, all that good crap bowler, which I don't usually ask people to do, and I probably still won't ask people to do it. But if you feel like doing it, then feel free to do so. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is create more of a community, more preparedness-minded human beings, and get us all connected together so we can share information and help raise everyone up for the uncertain future that we've got coming at us at a rapid rate of knots right now. So if I can do my part on that, and people seem to like it. Some people seem to like some weird Aussie sitting down in his office talking at you about things that are going on in the world. Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it because it helps share the word. Yeah, thanks. Hey, everyone on YouTube, if you're accessing me through YouTube. Hey to everyone on Instagram, if you're watching it through Instagram. And hello to everyone who's listening to this on the audio version after the fact, and also the Rumble version, because that has got up and running. And people have been hitting like and commenting on that one as well. And I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's good prepping mindset, I believe anyway, for a video version of this, that I've got this one source on YouTube to have an alternative, to have redundancy, to have a backup. That's basic. That's prepping 101. All right. And that's what Rumble is, because we all know that certain platforms like to all of a sudden cut things out. And I've been having a lot of trouble with this certain platform, as anyone who follows me through that platform knows, of late. Utrud, son of Utrud, says, when are you moving? I'm actually moving this week. So this, what you see, you can see there's progressively less and less stuff. The last thing to go will be the axe, which I will carry out of this household. That'll be the last thing to go, but I'm moving this week, but that's to just a temporary place. It's a temporary place. Then probably in about 6-7 months, I'll be moving again. So that's the way it goes. I am looking for minimum 10 acres near the border of New South Wales, Queensland. Good spot of the world. I've lived up here and kind of traveled around this area of the world a little bit. I lived up there for a few years. I like it. It's a bit too warm and humid for me, for my personal temperament, but the growing season up there is amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. I'm down here. It is currently maybe 10 degrees and rainy today. That's 10 degrees Celsius for my foreign friends, or specifically for my American friends, which I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I'm going to guess maybe 30, 40, somewhere around there. It's cold anyway. It's cold and shitty today. Anyway, the growing season is short down here, and you got to really target what you're doing, and you need hardy plants. Whereas up around that border of New South Wales, Queensland, hot, humid conditions, really good growing conditions for a lot of stuff. So if you can do it, do it. However, do it. However, butthole for it, which is a lot. That's a lot. I don't know what the technical measure of butthole payments are, but it's a lot. Hey, by the way, to warm myself up, I've been drinking whiskey this afternoon. So if I'm a little bit more belligerent than normal, you can figure out why. YouTube is apparently cutting in and out again. Instagram down. Not sure what's going on there, but I'm going to forge ahead, and hopefully, you'll get some of the good stuff. Just got my license this year. I'll be thinking of getting some acres. License for what? License for what? Your gun license? Your driving license? Your fishing license? You also need to get a fishing license, by the way, if you want to fish in Australia. Very little do. Car license. There you go. Get you some freedom. That's what they say anyway. It's also going to incur a lot of costs. That's life though, isn't it? All right, let's jump into it today. The first thing I want to talk about is medicine shortages in Australia. I put up a reel recently. It's a pretty hot one that's happening at the moment. Apparently YouTube is going off, as in turning off. Unsurprising, I just talked out against them, so that's what happens. But anyway, like I said, I'll forge ahead here. The medicine shortages that are happening in Australia at the moment are real. They're serious. Let me jump on the website. I've just been going through the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Administration website. Currently, this is on the database for medicine shortages. We have 398 medicines that are in shortage. We have 73 medicines that are anticipated to go into shortage. Why are we having these shortages? Great question. Now, I actually traveled into Big Smoke today and went to a pharmacy there, and they've got signs up, and it's all bashing the current government that we have, which is the what we call the Labor government here in Australia, which is kind of more your left-leaning, maybe more progressive, maybe. It's not quite. There's no equivalent in Australian politics to like US or really anywhere else in the world. Maybe UK-ish, maybe New Zealand, but Labor anyway is what they came from was supporting the working class man. It was your blue collar type party. It's not anymore. It's definitely not anymore. If you want to argue with me about that, you can. I'm really open for your thoughts on that, and would love to have that discussion. But as far as I see the Labor, they are as close to communism as we can get here in Australia. Pretty much. No, I think there are socialist and there are communist parties we can get here in Australia. Pretty much. No, I think there are socialist and there are communist parties within Australia. I don't think they get a lot of traction, but Labor is like communism light. They do some whack stuff. And right now they are taking us down the path of Atlas Shrugged in Australia. People are up in arms when stuff like this happens. The pharmaceutical companies or the chemists, I should say, are up in arms because of what Labor's doing, what they've done, and what they are currently doing. Please check out my reel if you want to see a bit more about that. And make sure you click the link that goes to Capital Chemist Braidwood, because the young lady in that video lays it out what they're doing. There's also another story that I put up very recently about that, which was another Aussie chemist, pharmacist that was talking about this sort of stuff. But essentially, they're passing through some laws at the moment that are going to make these shortages that we have currently exacerbated. In fact, they're probably going to make them seem insignificant right now compared to what's coming down the pipeline. Insignificant. 400 medicines are currently on the pipeline. Insignificant. 400 medicines are currently on the critical list or are currently in shortage. And this is people's lives. And I get it, right? You know, a lot of us, a lot of people like myself, a lot of people who probably listen to me, we're into alternative means. We don't really trust pharmaceutical companies, and I don't think you should. You should definitely not trust the government. But you know, there's a lot of bad sort of things that are in these pharmaceutical products. I get that. I don't personally take a lot of them, but some of them I do. And some of them my family does, and some of them my friends do. Some of these things are life-saving. They're life-saving medicines, and they are in critical supply right now, that people are worried about this. Some of them are not. And I urge you to go on to tga.gov.au, go into their database, go into the Medicine Shortage Reports database, click on the link, have a look at current shortages and see if anything that you take is on there. Have a look at the next tab, which is anticipated shortages. Click on that, have a look through, see if there's anything in there that concerns you. If you are on a medication that you need, and I'm talking for psychological, mental issues, for physical issues. We had a couple of people commenting about this. We had thyroid diseases. We had, sorry, I'm blanking on it right now, but there was another one that was pretty critical. And these people have even tried herbal alternatives before. They've tried diet, they've tried lifestyle. I don't know how far these people have gone with it, but these are other things we can tackle with this issue. But if you've tried it and it doesn't work, and you know that the pharmaceutical ones are the ones that work for you, then this is something that should be on your mind and you should be thinking about. We need to do something about this. There's not a lot we can do about this, because at this point right now, if you were to go and try and stockpile it, as opposed to hoarding or panic buying, stockpiling is something that preppers do, where we forecast potential issues and we build up over time. That's stockpiling, or that's my definition of stockpiling, as opposed to panic buying, when, you know, a case of the sniffles goes out into the world and you freak out and think, I need fucking toilet paper for some fucking reason. So you go and bash someone in a supermarket in order to get some toilet paper. That's a bad version of it. But the fact is, you're not going to be able to stockpile this because it's just not out there. And a lot of these things are, in Australia at least, they require a doctor's script in order for you to get it. So you're not going to be able to stockpile it. The only thing I can say, and I said this in the comments as well, so if you didn't catch this in the comments, first thing, you need to be on top of your subscription for this. This is, your subscription is in going to the doctor and getting it refilled, your script, okay? You need to be on top of that. Don't wait till this is run out and then go, oh shit, I better book in with a doctor and go see them now. Predict when it's going to go out. Have a look at that, like a week out or 2 weeks out or whatever you can. Get into the doctor and say, hey, this is going to run out in X, or 2 weeks out, or whatever you can. Get into the doctor and say, hey, this is going to run out in X amount of time. Can I get another script? I urge you to talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor about these 3 options. Can I get more on my script? Okay, so that's, well, sorry, first off, can I get this earlier? Can I overlap it so I do have that little bit of fudge factor? Can I get more on my script? Can I double it? And I promise you I won't take both of them at the same time, but I just want more. And just to give you a heads up on how that actually works, or how that might work potentially, this is something that I've done. I don't have any, medications that I need to live, apart from whiskey and dark chocolate and coffee, but I don't have any medications that I need from a doctor to live. But there have been occasions where I'm like, hey, I'm going overseas, and this has been legit. I'm going overseas. I'm going to a third world nation. They don't have access to medications over there. Can you give me a script for, Cipro or amoxicillin, or, some sort of broad spectrum antibiotic, doxycycline or something like that? And some doctors are like, yeah, I can do that for you. Sometimes I might have mentioned that story, which may or may not have been true at the time, in order to build up my personal stores of antibiotics. So that's something you can think about as well. Can you build up those stores? Last thing that you want to try and talk to your doctor about is, are there alternatives? And even just come out and say this, look, I'm worried personally about this medication potentially running out in the future. Are there alternatives that I can take? What are the pros and cons to them? For a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, medicines out there are different versions of them, and the doctor will prescribe you one version of that based on, usually, let me choose the nice path here. Usually on what they believe will have the least amount of side effects for you, the most amount of pro and the least amount of cons for you. Maybe also on what they get paid to push. All right, so that, there's that as well. But there are alternatives to these things, so definitely inquire about those alternatives, and then even also the alternatives. So, are there alternative drugs that I could take, alternative medicines that I could take? But are there alternative natural medications? Is there alternative things I can do in my lifestyle to take this? Or do you believe it is safe that I can take down the amount I take of this? Now that's pretty serious, and that is something that I would really, really listen to a doctor. Again, I'm not a medical professional in any way, shape, or form. So this is why I'm saying you have to ask your doctor about this. You have to go see your doctor about this. It's very important that you do that. And if the answer is no to all these, then, at the end of the day, people often ask me this on course. Well, what if this? What if that? These red herring questions. Yeah, but what if I've only got one leg and all I've got on me is a lighter and I'm dropped in the middle of the Amazon and an alligator bites 9 of my 10 fingers off? I'm like, okay, yeah. In any scenario, there is a given situation where you're going to be, the technical term is fucked. All right, on a long enough timeline, death is inevitable for all of us. At some point, we have to accept that, okay? But we're going to try and live for as long as we can, as well as we can. So we're going to do all those things. We're not just going to throw our hands up in the air and fret and go like, So we're going to do all those things. We're not just going to throw our hands up in the air and fret and go like, medicine shortage in Australia. We're all fucked. I'm especially fucked because I'm reliant on this particular medicine. We're going to look at what options we can. If those options don't play out, if we can't get those options to work out, then we just do what we can. All right. At the end of the day, you have to do what you can. And that's all there is to it. But again, this is just a warning. This is something you might want to start looking into, especially if you are one of those people who is reliant on medicine from pharmaceutical companies. All right. What the hell is going on with my computer? Sorry, I'm just my computer's having a conniption fit there. How are we going in YouTube? Can you still see me in YouTube? Hopefully. All right. Peter Rouse says testosterone, the only thing I take, which is probably good because our testosterone is under attack. And what else is falling is sperm counts. This is a pretty interesting one that I want to talk about because, why talk about this in particular? It's because it pertains to life and the continuance of life. As far as I'm concerned, a human being, like any organism, we are just another organism, another animal. We're a different animal. We're a different organism. Goes without saying. But we do still adhere to the rules of an organism in this reality, in that our kind of prime directive is survival, and the second prime directive is survival of species. So that means breeding, that means procreation. And this is one thing that I feel has been under attack, procreation on many levels, the family unit of how we are, of how we breed, of how we continue on as human beings, and our free ability to do that, because I think it is a defining factor of a species, its ability to breed, its free and open ability to breed, which should be as fundamental of a law as there can be. However, I think it's under attack from overt reasons and from subverted reasons as well, and unintended consequences. So this story, this is why I'm talking about this story, because it came up on news.com.au, which is, whatever kind of source that is, you can make up your own mind. Study explains why sperm rates have dropped 50%. 50%. Sperm rates. We're seeing declines in fertility rates. No, sorry, we're not seeing declines in fertility rates at the moment. We're seeing crashing fertility rates right now. 50% sperm rate decline is a pretty big decline. So what's actually happening there? These, I'll give you the cliff notes of this. This is essentially a meta-analysis of a whole bunch of other, for those who don't know what that means, you can create a study where you get people and you conduct an experiment, or you can do a meta-analysis where you look at all the studies that are out there and you analyze them and you try and shape somehow that information to keep it across the board, because different studies do different things and they create different answers in different ways. So you can't just go like, oh, here's all the answers. You have to kind of regulate all those answers. That's a very crayon version of how science works, right? Meta-analysis arguably is one of the better forms of science that's coming out right now, in that it isn't like if you create a study, you can manipulate the way you create that study, and you can manipulate the answers that come out of that study. But with a meta-analysis, you're looking at a broad range of other studies, and depending on how big that range is, and depending on which studies you pick, because you can still handpick studies. You go, I want that answer, that answer, that answer, that answer. You can come out with some pretty robust information, I believe, anyway. Again, feel free to argue with me. So this one was looking at studies, and it looked at the amount of sperm in male semen over the past 50 years, and saw that there's a decline within it of 50% over those 50 years, which I'm shocked every time I hear this to be reminded that was in the 70s. 50 years ago, it was in the 70s. I'm always like, what? 50 years ago? That was like 1920, wasn't it? No, 50 years. So what's actually causing this? There's no like hard and fast that they actually come out. Like there's no smoking gun. I mean, they even used the term smoking gun in here, but really it's not a smoking gun. What's interesting is what's not blamed in here. What it actually is, they're talking about environmental factors. It's a little bit of a no shit Sherlock, but it's a good reminder for everyone that, hey, these environmental factors matter. We as human beings, like I said, we're different animals. We don't just live in an environment, we create our environment. We manipulate our environment to a degree that no other animal on the face of the earth does. We are also products, like every other animal and every other organism on the face of the earth. We are products of our environment. So if we manipulate and create our environment, we are technically products of our own manipulation of that environment. We've been doing that unconsciously, though. This is my belief system. We've been doing that unconsciously, and thus we have created environments that we didn't think about. And so we are having consequences of that, where we are now manipulated by our environment that we created. And it's not good. It's literally killing us off. That's one way to look at it, okay? A decrease in fertility is killing off our species. That's the way I choose to look at it, at least. There were a couple of lifestyle type factors that were involved in it. Diabetes was one, but essentially what they're looking at is the breakdown of DNA. Shitty DNA, essentially. Broken DNA. That is what is causing the drop in sperm count. So they at the end of the day, they said there's some lifestyle, there's some environmental exposures, pollution probably being the big one. So it's worthwhile, and I'll just read this quote: "It is worthwhile to optimize lifestyle factors even before trying for a child." That should be painfully obvious to anyone, but in case you didn't know, this is something you need to think about. I mean, this extends beyond having a child, which I think is a extremely important thing to do. But if it's not your life journey, then so be it. If it is your life journey, then I say full power to you, and I encourage you to do so. However, if you don't want to do that, or you can't do that, okay, that's all right. There's plenty other things you can do with your life. Optimize lifestyle factors before even trying for a child. How about just optimize lifestyle factors? We should all be trying to optimize our lifestyle factors, and then obviously trying to think about how we affect our environment as well. Age wasn't super important. This particularly excited me. There was this thought that from 40 years old, it's massive decline in men, but no, they're saying 50 and over now, which gives me a bit of time to continue doing it. JMR 4575 says, my testosterone doctor just got shut down. Sorry to hear that. The government is targeting doctors heavily. Come on, we all know, says Kieran. The definition of science has broadened ridiculously in the last few years. As far as I'm concerned, you've got science, which I think can still be respected. I am a scientist. If you apply the scientific method to something, that is something that is worthwhile. And then you've got capital T, the, capital S, science, TM, which is what we've seen in the last few years really come to the fore. It is where science and money mix. Okay, and those two are a bad mix. Those two should never come together. So, that's kind of thrown shade on the whole idea of science, which I think is a big problem. The scientific method is still worthwhile. It is still valid, and is still something that's worth pursuing. The science TM is something that we should hunt down and burn out of our society as much as we can. All right, let's continue with the good news. What do we got going here? I haven't even read through the stories that I've got. Some of these are days old. I mean, I've read through them, obviously, but I haven't read through them before I jumped on here. Biden's team fears the aftermath of a failed Ukrainian counter-offensive. This is a shift, all right? What am I looking for when I'm looking at geopolitical news? Big stories, things that jump out at me, but shifts. And I've talked about these shifts many, many times. We've seen a few of them, and it marks something. It marks what's going on behind the scenes, because we're not privy, you and I, we're not privy to what's happening. We're not privy to what's happening in the White House. We're not privy to those private talks. But if we pay enough attention, we can see what's going on. Not to what they say, but to what they do. We could be seeing a shift here. This is the first part of it that we're seeing, which is a softening technique where it's getting thrown out to the public to get us used to this idea. Because before this, it's all 100% Ukraine will win. The good guys will be the victors. The good guys being Ukraine and the West. The bad guys, Russia, will fall, will collapse. Look how close they are. They're about to collapse. Everything's going bad. Everything's about to collapse. Well, the torrent of information that told us otherwise has finally had its effect on our society. And now I think the US government in particular is starting to realize, like, hey, we can't keep telling the people that the sky is green and expecting them to believe it in this particular case. There's plenty of other cases where they are continuing to gaslight us. But this particular case, they're starting to look down and they're going, okay, I can see what's down the track here. I don't know if we can win this war. I don't know if Ukraine can win this war. At least not in the short term. So they're looking at this and they're going, okay, we need to start getting ahead of the messaging here. We need to get ahead of the curve, as it were, for what's going to happen. We can't be caught out on this one and all of a sudden Ukraine collapses and we were sitting here going like, Ukraine's going to win, Ukraine's going to win. Oh shit, they lost. Fuck, we look like idiots now. The egg's on our face. They're starting to prepare for this one and they're going, hey, look, maybe Ukraine won't win this. Maybe, you know, it's a long shot, but you know, that chance is there. So you're saying there's a chance. That's exactly what's happening. The Biden administration is quietly preparing for the possibility that if Ukraine's spring counteroffensive falls short of expectations, critics at home and allies abroad will argue that America has come up short too. So exactly what I said in a single sentence. JMR4575, I just want to comment, I read this comment. It's easier for a female wanting to be a man under 16 to get testosterone replacement therapy than men with low testosterone in Australia. Just my opinion. Yeah, I don't know the stats of that. It is possible to get it, but the people that I know who have got it are people from my particular fraternity, that being ex-military folk who have been exposed to a lot of traumatic brain injury type events, which has been linked to decreased testosterone, and thus have gone on TBT or testosterone, TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. That's the only people that I know. I don't know any 16-year-old girls who have got it, but I don't flow in those circles. I don't hang around with 16-year-old girls, funnily enough. It's odd, isn't it? I'm not a drag queen, so, you know, I don't go read stories to kids or hang around kids that much that aren't my own. This coming out of this story, sorry, back onto the Ukraine thing, coming out of Politico.com. And this was sent to me by my main source on Instagram, once again, who is just kicking goals at the moment. He's just flooding me with information because my time is taken up in other places quite often. And I am reading news and looking at stuff, but sometimes I don't dig deep enough to find this sort of stuff, which is really good. Publicly, President Joe Biden's team has offered unwavering support for Ukraine, pledging to load it up with weapons and economic aid for as long as it takes, quote, end quote. But if the impending fighting season yields limited gains, administration officials have expressed privately they fear being faced with a two-headed monster attacking it from the hawkish and dovish ends of the spectrum. Yeah, so I mean, that's exactly what I said. That what we're being told is like 100% Ukraine's going to win. We're with them for the long haul. It's going to happen. It's an inevitability. But behind the scenes, they're starting to leak this information, and I can almost guarantee it that privately, like this is sources privately within the White House that are that are coming out and saying, hey, there might be a chance that this might not turn out well. That doesn't happen by accident. Okay, this is orchestrated. The whole thing, like this release of information is orchestrated. They wouldn't be letting this sort of stuff out if they actually believed that first comment that the overt comment that the government is putting out that we're going to win. What else is happening geopolitically? Whiskey's doing its effect. I'm starting to lose my ability to enunciate and pronunciate words. Or maybe I haven't had enough is the problem. Oh, all right. Apologies, YouTube. I didn't have the comments up. I've just put them up and there are heaps up here. Grow your own medicine, says Peter Rouse. Great idea. How do you take the ride? From the US. Sperm count in the jabbed also. Ever since the vaccines, says TCH. I have no idea about that. I have seen nothing about that, so I can't make any comment about it. Although it would not surprise me, to be honest. Statin drugs also add to this issue. We're talking about heart medications here with statin. Half the world is obese, definitely. I believe has an effect, a dramatic effect. A friend of mine had another kid in his 80s, and it's definitely possible for men. Obviously, once women go through menopause, then the odds of getting pregnant fall to zero. Essentially, zero. Effectively zero, I should say. Fluoride in the water minimizes testosterone as well. Is anybody on here had their water tested lately? No, I have not had my water tested. Take the ride. And I would be interested to hear from anyone who has had their water tested. I would be interested to know where somebody in Australia could get their water tested. That would be handy because I might do that. I might actually do a video on that because I run all my water through a filter, which, not to throw brand names out because mine doesn't actually have a brand name, but the closest simile to it is Zazen. And I'm always curious. I'm like, does this do something? Like I've read stuff that it does something, but a lot of the stuff comes from the companies that are selling this shit. So of course they're going to be like, this is the best thing for purifying your water. Anyway, I want to get my water tested. I'd like to load up Joe Biden and send him to Ukraine or to North Korea or some headhunter's island. Yeah, I don't know if he'd fare well. Speaking of Joe Biden, I was just watching a video. Can anyone tell me if it's a deep fake? It's this video of Joe Biden, and he says, we can't be re-elected. There's no, we can't re-elect. We have to re-elect Donald Trump. And I'm like, what? Did you say we can't be re-elected and we have to re-elect Donald Trump? Surely this is a deep fake. Somebody assured me that it wasn't, that it was actually his speech. And I'm like, this dude's, what is he, 81, 82? If he wins the next term, he will serve till he's 86. I'm sorry if you're this old, but I really don't think you should be driving a car at 82, 84, 86 years old. All right, I don't think you should be operating a vehicle. I certainly don't think you should be running the United States of America. Just my opinion as an Aussie, all right? And feel free to throw shade at me or you Americans. I don't mind it because it's not my country. And when people start throwing their opinions around on things they weren't a part of, like, if you're not part of Australia and you're like, oh, fuck Australia, you're pieces of shit. Yeah, that puts my nose out of joint a little, but it's just my opinion. I don't think this dude should be running the country. Even though, is he running the country, right? Take the Ride says, check with your university science department in Australia. Every water municipality can test your water, I'm sure. Maybe I should do that. I just hate talking to communists. So I don't really want to go to the local university. Water distiller, best option for clean water. That's interesting. Peter Rouse assures me that it is a real video. Look up Norman Lear. He's the friend. I have my own water bore. Interesting. Interesting stuff. All right, let's jump back into the geopolitical stuff now. 19 countries express interest in joining BRICS group. This is not breaking news. This is just interesting and a little reminder to everyone. The BRICS group has been, since they formed as a group, which is the BRIC group, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, they've only let one country into it, South Africa. That's why it's BRICS. But they have interest in countries such as Argentina, United Arab Emirates, Algeria, Egypt, Bahrain, Indonesia. Should interest Australians in particular, because it's just to our north. East Africa, one from East Africa and two nations from East Africa, sorry, and one from West Africa that they didn't identify. But interesting stuff. This BRICS alliance, it's not something that's just going to slide away. This is gaining momentum. This is going to be a big thing. And I think potentially this is the next, maybe not superpower, but next large coalition that's going to control much of what the world does and maybe thinks and sees as well. Next large coalition that's going to control much of what the world does and maybe thinks and sees as well. Take the Ride says, my mum just turned 92 and she's an excellent driver. She's a smart cookie. I won't disagree with that. My mum still drives herself during the day. She just doesn't feel comfortable at night and she doesn't see it as well. There you go. Well, in reality, here's what I actually believe when it comes to vehicles, when it comes to gun licenses, when it comes to competence at jobs, when it comes to raising children, when it comes to having pets, when it comes to leading a nation, I think these things should be means tested. As in, sorry, not means tested. I think they should be quality tested, is what I mean to say. That there should be individual testing for these sorts of things, and then we should allow people to be competency ranked. That's roughly my beliefs on all things, in that I pay the same amount of insurance as somebody who has had 20 car crashes. As somebody who has killed someone in a motor vehicle, I pay the same insurance. And I don't think that should be right. I've had my vehicle license now for decades, several decades, and I have never once been involved in a car accident. Except for things that were minor and none of which were my fault. Why? Because I'm a competent driver and I continually work on my skills driving. But that doesn't matter to anyone. Likewise, there are a number of things that I think you should look at in my life and go, well, this person actually looks after themselves. They look after their own health. Here's an example: health insurance. This person looks after themselves. They are fit. They eat well. They know what to do to look after themselves. They very rarely go to the doctors or the dentist. And if we had to look at it, they actually rank higher than your average person in health and fitness standards. Yet, if I was to walk in, I don't, but if I was to go and get health insurance, I would pay the same as an obese POS. I don't think that's fair. Likewise, take the ride. If there was a 92-year-old who could jump into a car and test and go, look, I can drive this car competently and safely, then I'd be like, go for it. Also, if there was a 23-year-old or a 46-year-old or a 62-year-old who jumped in that car and was dangerous in that vehicle, I would say, hey, how about we either take that license off them until they know how to drive properly, or we severely restrict their ability to drive. That's just my take on it, right? But good on your mom for doing that, and good on her for continuing to have that independence to do it, being willing to do it, and also being able to look at it critically and go, hey, here is a point where I don't feel confident in driving and I'm not going to do it. I think that's actually a stand-up sort of thing to do. Firearms should be a human right. I agree, but weapons are my religion. And I think there should be a lot of testing. I got out of the military. I obviously had a very high confidence in weapons. There was a lot I could do. I was in the special forces, so it's above and beyond normal military what we could do with weapons. However, that counts for naught, for nothing, nada, within the civilian world. I have to jump through the same hoops. I have to do the same things, and do the same tests and pay the same money and do all that sort of stuff in order to get my firearms license. And at the end of it, I can get the exact same types of weapons as everyone else. Competency checking on weapons. I think that should be something that we do. Who's going to check the criminals? That's a good question. That is a good question. All right, which I'm not going to answer because no one checks criminals. The police are too busy checking our speed, make sure that all the little things. Actually, I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm too pissed off about it right now. But there's some stuff that they've been doing. Here in New Zealand, the police shooting standards are so low they should not be armed. That's actually pretty standard in a lot of parts of the world, including Australia. There are some parts of the police force that get to train more, but I actually talked to, this is a number of years ago now, so it may have changed slightly, but I was talking to a police officer not from the state that I'm in, and I was talking to them about the amount, I was in the military at the time, the amount that we fire, the amount that we do, the high standards that we had to reach. And they said, oh, we shoot our weapon like maybe, or definitely once a year, and that's the only mandatory time we have to do it. So like maybe I shoot 6 rounds while I put 6 rounds through the weapon, go, yep, weapon works, I'm done. I said, are you hitting a group with that 6 rounds? And I go, well, don't like just shoot at the paper target and get hit, but no one's really caring about it. That's pretty shocking. That's pretty shocking. Remember, these are the people that you are theoretically leaving your safety in the hands of. This is, again, one of the reasons why I get on and do the kind of shit, talk about the kind of shit that I talk about, because you cannot rely on this sort of system. You need to take the responsibility for these sorts of things, for your own life, your own safety, back into your own hands. This is exactly the reason why. Police are concerned about, I don't know what, enforcing measures about people wearing masks at certain times. They're worried about what you're growing in your own house. They're worried about where you park your fucking vehicle. That's what they're worried about. They're not worried about being proficient on firearms a lot of the time. I shouldn't say that. There are a lot of police that are. They're very concerned about this and that do work very hard at these sorts of things. Okay, I don't want to be unfair. All right, there are still people who are born protectors that step into this, and I want to commend them for doing such a thing. But however, like what Peter Rouse says here, I never leave my safety to anyone else. I don't leave my safety or my family's safety or my friend's safety to anyone else. I am willing to step up and protect them and myself. That really gets my blood boiling, forced to trust and rely on people you could do a better job than, says Kieran. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. This is an interesting one. This might make your blood boil, or makes my blood boil quite a bit, usually. This is from a Greenpeace report, again sent to me by my main source. Greenpeace report, Chinese provinces approved more new coal power plants in the first 3 months of this year than in all of 2021, as Beijing continues a rapid expansion of fossil fuels generation capacity in an effort to guarantee reliable electricity supplies. Why do they need to guarantee reliable electricity supplies? Well, they're making the fucking Teslas, right? And they got to get those Teslas out. They're making the solar panels. They're making all that green technology that everyone's all really worried about spending their hard-earned dollars so they can virtue signal to everyone else in our society that, hey, I'm doing the right thing. You're a bad person because you drive a Toyota Hilux. Fuck you. You diesel guzzling piece of shit. But I'm doing the right thing because I'm in Tesla. Where'd that Tesla get made? But we shut down a coal power plant in New South Wales in the past 2 weeks. So we're doing our part. One coal power plant, shut it down. Save the world. It's the uselessness of this green agenda. It's not even like, whether it's right or wrong aside, let's just shelve that. Whether it's actually accurate or not. Does it work? No, because you've got this going on. Like, if you want to actually tackle the problem, this is the problem you have to tackle. India and China are not going to stop burning coal. They're not going to. They've just signaled that. You don't just create power plants. You don't approve power plants at a higher rate than you ever have before with the intention of someday going green or quickly going green. That's not going to happen. More things going on here. What do we got here? I never believe even felons in the US should have their gun rights returned to them after they completed their sentence. Well, isn't that the point of incarceration, that you're rehabilitating people? No, punitive punishment. That's what it's about. That doesn't work, by the way. Every criminal has at least 2 guns here. We are inundated with criminals over here. That's from Take the Ride, talking about from the US. That's the voice from the US, from the US horse's mouth, as it were. 2 guns. Haha, says Peter Rouse. What else we got going in the world? Let me give you the good news. I've lost my spot here, but South Africa is a victim of climate colonialism. I love this one. They were a showcase for setting up green, and it has backfired in their face. It was meant to be a climate blueprint, climate justice blueprint, showing how rich countries could help developing economies end their reliance on coal and go green. Almost 18 months on, South Africa's 8.5 billion transition showpiece looks more like a cautionary tale. A message sent to me from a main source on Instagram. If you don't know what's going on in South Africa at the moment, they are in a de facto state of collapse in their country. They cannot keep the lights on, and it is getting worse, and it is slated to get much, much worse in the future. They fucked it. They have fucked it. And I thought it was just bad, and I looked into it and I said, yeah, there's some green things that are going on there, but I think they just mismanaged their power supply. No, they actively went to go green. They're like, no, this is how we do it. World, look at us. We're doing it. We're going green. And 18 months later, totally fallen on their ass as far as energy generation goes. They're in a bad, bad way there. Here's the story here, which is from... I don't have where it's from. My apologies. The story is called, though, "The Rich World's Plan to Help Developing Countries Go Green is Floundering." So their country in South Africa is floundering and is mired in politics and power cuts right now. So yeah, it's a cautionary tale. We can just look at what's happening in South Africa at the moment and just go like, yeah, okay. If we want to go hard on going green, that's what we can expect. That is pretty much what we can expect. All right, let's just quickly. I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon because I want to go get some more whiskey. But USA is deploying nuclear armed submarines to South Korea. That's a big deal. It's also a massive dick swing into North Korea's face. Look at what we're doing, but it's warning signs of where we're heading as a world right now. Again, further into the path of World War III. Biden and Modi, that's the PM of India, are going to visit Papua New Guinea. That's in my neck of the woods. Not really my neck of the woods, but just north of Australia. That's a bit of a big deal. US President Joe Biden will briefly visit Papua New Guinea on May 22nd, officials from the Pacific Island nation said on Thursday, as Washington seeks to counter growing Chinese influence in the strategically important region. Is it too little too late? That's my question when it comes to this sort of stuff. The Pacific region has been targeted by China for a long time now, and they've been pumping money, infrastructure, resources, and control mechanisms into that area for a long time. And Australia, US, India have been caught with their pants down. And we're struggling to catch up with it. And it's really very little in comparison to what China is doing that we're offering. SpyScale27 says, notice how mainstream media is quiet on green energy fuck-ups. Yes. They I mean, it's not part of their narrative. They don't want to talk about it. If something like is being announced, they're all over it. Look how good this is. This is great. When it doesn't work and it falls flat on its face. I mean, you see stuff going on. Here's the thing. You see stuff going on in the media on page 47 or whatever in a tiny little story. South Africa's having some issues. There's some fucking civil disorder going on there and fighting, and 3 people died. And don't worry about it. A mall just got blown up. Don't fucking worry about it. Just, stuff that happens in the world. Not once do they go, why is this happening? Why is it happening? Because that particular part of South Africa has been without power for 10 days now. And the people have had enough. And they are destroying whatever they can because they can't get energy. They can't do anything. Yeah. You won't see that in mainstream media, that's for sure. Ukraine apparently attempted to assassinate Putin. They flew a drone into Moscow and blew it up. Missed him. He's still alive, as far as I know. Last thing I'm going to leave you with is one of these. What the fuck is going on in the world right now for a Sunday night? Just when you thought things couldn't get any stranger, now people are choosing to identify as handicapped. Handicapped. In a troubling new societal trend. Yeah. I'm just going to leave you with that. Transabled, right? That's what it's all about. There are things that I look at in our society right now, and I just go, what's going on? But at the end of the day, here's what's important. What's important is what you and I do, not what everyone else is doing. Don't worry about what people want to identify about. Don't worry about what people are even trying to force you to do. Do you. And what you is making yourself a better human being, being more prepared for what's happening in the future. Those two things are synonymous as far as I'm concerned. A more prepared human being is a better human being, because that's how you be more prepared. We work on ourselves. We do whatever we can to make ourselves better, fitter, stronger, faster, smarter, and healthier. That's the best prepared flex that you can get. Me, I love my gear. I love my EDC. I love my knives. I love, Gucci gear. I love new backpacks. I love all that stuff. But the biggest prep flex that you can have is being a fit, healthy human being. All the other stuff is good though. Keep doing it. That's it for today. That's what I'm going to leave you on, is that little note. I'm unsure as to my frequency of what I'm going to be able to put these out in the future. Like I mentioned at the top of this one, I'm going to be moving soon. Then I'm heading off overseas for work, and I'll be overseas for a couple of weeks. So we'll see what I can get out. But I'll try and get some stuff out, even if it's just little stuff, just to let you know what's going on in the world. That's it for me today, gang. Thank you very much. As always, I really appreciate each and every one of you jumping in. I really appreciate everyone who's putting comments up on the various mediums that I'm coming out on. Remember to stay safe out there. Kieran, good luck with the move. Thank you very much. Remember to stay safe out there. The world is, it's getting crazy, but it's not totally crazy. We've still got time to plan, to prepare, to look after ourselves, to look after our families, to continue storing up food, to continue growing food and growing our own medicine, as Peter Rouse reminded us that we can do. So continue to do all that good stuff. I encourage you as much as I can to continue doing that, and to encourage others to do so as well. So until next time, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And as always, Semper Paratus.